Hi, hi, hi. What's up, guys? Legendary Damon here with Legendary Talks. As you know, I do this every night, 7 nights a week. This is my 57th night in a row. Very excited. Very excited to talk to DJ Ruckus tonight. He is a longtime friend of mine, and I just can't wait to talk to him. How you guys doing tonight? How's everyone feeling? Hope everyone is staying lifted and, as lifted as possible. These are some pretty intense times we are in. That's part of the reason I do this every night, is so that, hey Allison, hey Sidra, is so that I can take people's minds off what's going on in the world. And, there are some pretty intense things going on right now. So this is my 57th night in a row, Sidra, and I'm not stopping until the quarantine is over. We have DJ Ruckus, love you too. We have DJ Ruckus. He is a good friend of mine. He's a superstar DJ, and I'm really excited to talk to him. Also, we do a drinking game every night, and what I do is I let you guys choose 3 choices for the drinking word, and then I have Ruckus. He makes the final choice. So, what are your suggestions for the drinking word? We've had Grace Jones, because it was her birthday a couple nights ago. We had Hotel was the drinking word last night, because we had Ben Pundler from Edition Hotels. We had Madonna. We've had Prince. What are your suggestions for the drinking word? Hey Trevor, what's up, guys? This is Legendary Talks, 7 nights a week, hosted by moi. I am going to do something for June called Pride Month Mondays. Hey Mark Trevino, what are you doing? What's up? I didn't realize you followed me on Instagram. You've give you some suggestions for the drinking word, guys. Whose birthday is it today? It's Andre 3000's birthday today, so maybe we could say Andre 3000. Give me some suggestions, guys. We've had Grace Jones, Madonna, Prince. Gold was the drinking word when Estelle was on here the other day. And obviously when my guest and I say that word, everybody drinks. So, anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? What is my favorite episode of the Golden Girls, maybe? Who is my biggest fashion inspiration? Liberace, things like that. Hey Sydney, what's going on? Love would be a good one for a drinking word. We're taking drinking word suggestions, Sydney, so let me know. So far we just have one, which is love. Oh, Ruckus is joining us now. Perfection. Let me see if Ruckus is on the list. Are you on the list? Excuse me, sir. You said your name was DJ Ruckus?
It's been a long time since I've seen those words.
Listen, excuse me. Who invited you to the party? I'm not sure I see you. There you are, DJ Ruckus. I have it. Please enter. Yes. How are you doing?
How's my Wi-Fi doing?
Because you're sitting outside, probably by a pool or something.
I'm very well, man. How's my Wi-Fi doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, kind of. Are you freezing? You're freezing-ish.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get.
That's better.
Okay.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Okay.
I'm just scared it's not going to hold on.
Huh?
Okay, am I good? Yeah, I was a little nervous it wasn't going to hold on. How are you, man?
I'm really good. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. We have a drinking game. We have a drinking game, and so far they've suggested that I let them give the suggestions and you choose the word. So far it's love and I think the ish, ISH. What would you like to be the drinking word tonight? Something obviously that we'll say often.
Yeah. Well, I'm drinking 1942, so we're going to have a little sip of that tequila. I like love. Love is good. And
okay.
Let's make it something interesting. Every time we say Lotus, we have to drink.
That's fine. Lotus it is. So cheers. We
Cheers.
just both said Lotus, so cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
And love you, by
Cheers.
the way.
You too. Love you too. Okay. So you've seen this show before. It's my 57th night in a row. And basically, you know, I talk to my cool friends about music and culture, but it's kind of turned into this thing where I'm kind of documenting New York nightlife or New York City in the 90s and 2000s. It wasn't my intention, but it just kind of led itself that way. So it's gotten really interesting as you've seen a few of them, you know, so.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
You being a major part of all of that, I'm very excited to talk to you. You saw Ben Panda last night?
I did see Ben Fonda last night. It's my guy, man, of course.
That was great. All of our guy, you know. So I want to ask you a couple questions, and I ask most people the same thing because I think it's really telling of who they are as a creative adult. First of all, where were you born?
I was born in New York.
Okay,
in
got it. And where were you raised?
In Miami.
Got it, okay. And what is the first song you remember really connecting to as a really young child?
Well, you know, it's kind of embarrassing, but Crisscross Jump Jump was probably my first, like, I'm in love with the record. Had to wear my clothes backwards, went to go buy the CD.
Listen, that's not embarrassing at all. I love that song. That was Jermaine Dupri, right?
Yeah, another one of my guys, man.
That's a great song. I love it.
And I got a chance to live in Atlanta later after that and become close with JD, which was pretty cool.
But not Crisscross, right?
No, I never really got to hang out with him.
That sucks. So what was your first concert you ever went to?
Another weird one. So I had, we went to a radio concert. We're in New York, and whole family, brother, sister, mom, dad. We went to, it was a mix between MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, BBD, and Casey and JoJo.
Those are all great, I think.
What up? Marlon Wayans is in here. What up, Wayne? What up, bro?
What up, Marlon Wayans? That's amazing, I think. All four of those I love. You mean?
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah. It's not a weird one. And then what's the first nightclub you went to?
Wow. The first nightclub I ever went to, there's two. There was a club in nightclub. The first real nightclub I ever went to when the what is now Story used to be Amnesia. And that song, Fat Joe's, I Bet Your Man Can't Do It Like That because his thing's too little because he can't work the middle. That was the first time that I ever went to a nightclub. I don't know how I got in. I was with some girls.
Yeah, how old were you? How old were you?
I was I was super young when I started the business for real, but this was the first nightclub I'd ever been to before I was a professional so-called DJ. And I went to Amnesia to see Fat Joe perform, and I don't know how I got in. I was 14, and I still look young. I was all lanky and young looking and a big afro, and, just, smooth my way in with some friends. And, Amnesia was the first one.
Well, what's interesting is I've interviewed a lot of different people about kind of nightclubs in that era, 90s and 2000s, and there's a lot of 14, 15-year-olds going out at that time. It's really funny. You mean? Most people were going to clubs at that age. It's really funny. You mean?
Yeah. I think I was 14, but then, I started DJing 15 years, after that, Crowbar.
Crowbar?
I think we're...
We're going to get it right. He's a DJ. He'll figure out how to technically get this right. You moving?
Playing some cards and sets. Let's see if we can slide over here.
I think that's probably better. That seems good. Where you at, LA?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Good, okay. That seems good. And we can see you now too. It's much better. Okay, so what was your first DJ job?
My first DJ job. So I walked to Kinko's for the first time that I had a friend of mine named Cypher7, who is the DJ friend of mine at the car. I had the DJ equipment, and we decided we were going to start a business. I walked from my house. Neither of us had a license at that time, but he just got a car. Walked to Kinko's, made business cards. DJ Ruckus and Cypress said we do parties, private parties, weddings, quinceañeras, whatever it was. So they're handing out cards. And the first parties that I got were, DJing little friends parties here and there, things here and there.
And what were you, like 15 years old or something?
I was 14 when that happened. When I got turntables and got the bug.
And why DJing? Like, what drew you to DJing at such a young age? Why did you want to do? Because there was no young
breakdancing and graffiti. So
oh, okay.
I had an opportunity to live in Puerto Rico for a couple of years when I was a kid, and I fell in love with what I saw. They used to have disco parties for the kids. They used to have a DJ. They would play a lot of Mariah Carey, a lot of Super Cat. Don Dada was a big record.
Yep.
Informer, Snow, all those records. They used to play those commercials, and the box was hot. That SEO music show.
Yep.
I used to go to those parties, and you get there was your first chance to dance with a girl, and it was kind of the parents were there, and everybody knew it was kind of fun little thing. And I saw turntables, and I was watching the BPM reader on the side. I was like, man, that's so cool. What are these little layers? What's going on there? Fell in love with it. And ended up, asking my parents for turntables for a birthday when I was 14. And they were like, let's check them out, see how expensive they are. And I got turntables. I didn't have records, but I got turntables. So I started out gathering whatever I could from all of the family members around, as much vinyl as I could. And then I got lucky, man. My older brother, who Jovar, is... was the oracle that helped me create my career. I was really in love with doing what I did, and I had the ingenuity, like I said, I went all the way to FedEx to go make Kinko's or whatever to make the business cards, and I was going for it, but I never had any idea that how far I could push it, and I got lucky, and my brother was like, hey, he was involved because he was working for Lenny Kravitz at the time, and he was Lenny's assistant. He had quit his job working at Kookaroo, and Lenny gave him a job because somebody quit for a second, and he just fell in love with it also, and ended up involved in this crowbar thing. And crowbar had come out. House music was controlling Miami at that period of time, but they wanted to do the Thursday night was a little bit of an off night, not the weekend night. So they were like, let's do hip hop on Thursdays. And Joe Bar took the idea like what was happening on Sunday at the time. Like, yeah, let's do hip hop. And my brother's been dabbling with DJing. Let's give him a try. And I came in there all lanky and skinny with the big afro, and trying to wear cool clothes. And I was the 15-year-old DJ that was DJing the hip hop night on Thursdays. And what up, Noah Tepperberg in the building?
What's up, Noah? Thank you for being so supportive. Noah's been watching every night. I love it. Wait, so you were 15, but it was Jovar really that kind of connected you to that first crowbar?
He gave me the first opportunity, and people liked it. I was obviously terrible. I didn't have enough records, and didn't really know how to build my camera art for the scene and really stay in there, but it worked, and I had some of the technical understanding, and I really stuck to it, and fought for whatever it is that I had to do. But then between that and I got another lucky break. The guys that were all involved were all so cool. Kenny was cool, Cal was cool, and then also Bill Spector and the Smack Crew, Angel, Conrad, Mo, still in the game. All those guys still in the game. They took me to a record store in Miami, and they were like, "You need to broaden what you know of your music, not just these rap records and stuff. What was happening at the time, but I need you to have Bon Jovi. I need you to have funk records. I need you to have, So they went and they showed me, they could just point out the covers to the things that were great, the roses. And it was that time when things were changing a little bit, where we were starting to play like rock and roll and hip hop together.
Yep.
It was a little pre the boom boom of like Mark Ronson and AM, but that was what was coming.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with all of that, obviously. So yes, so that's great. So they, because I was going to ask you, like, who kind of mentored you, or who did you look up to during that time? Like
Say it again.
who did you kind of who kind of mentored you? It sounds like Bill was mentoring you, people like that. Who was kind of mentoring you, or who did you look up to specifically at that time?
Had an opportunity to, really learn myself, because where I got lucky because of the Lenny, the Lenny thing and the Jovar thing, I really had an opportunity to be able to get into the clubs. And you know what, and lo and behold, I had a fake ID. I had got somebody in my high school somewhere in Miami to alter the date of my ID, and I never really showed it to any of the guys that I didn't really have to, but I had it. So when it was time for me to go into the next club, I could go see the DJs that I wanted to see. When I started hearing Radimus was playing, when I started hearing Mark Leventhal was playing, when I started seeing when people were flying in, some of the hip hop DJs, when Mark Ronson was playing. Actually, I have to tell you a great story about that. One time, my brother had me banned from the clubs because I snuck out to go see Mark Ronson because I could not go see Mark Ronson. He's still today my idol.
First of all, I believe that, and that's very Jovar. First of all, so it's interesting because I don't really know any of this part. This is all new information to me. You just sound very hungry in a great way and really ambitious at like a 15, 16-year-old. You just wanted to suck it all up. And you had, all these great guys, these older great guys around you, kind of like from Jovar to Lenny to Bill to all of them. You mean, like, that's amazing. And then did you know Mark at that time, or you just kind of like were a fan of Mark's DJ?
I didn't know him, but there was two things that happened at Crowbar when they were booking the DJs that blew my mind, that I was like, okay, this is how it's done. Yeah. I saw Kid one night, and I saw Mark Ronson.
Yep.
When he got on, it's the first time I'd ever seen anybody do this in like a hip-hop night, but he got on, and the first record that he played was Bomb Bomb from Sister Nancy.
Yeah, exactly.
He put on a 45 plate without the marker, without the 45 marker. He measured it. He was sitting there watching, and he played it like that, and I was sitting there like, holy shit. And then he started doing all the wordplay mixes where he was mixing Biggie records when he was matching like Notorious Jesus, and it would go to another song, and I was like, oh shit, like I needed to go home and practice because this is what's supposed to be done. This is not what I'm doing. And that was the two situations that sort of made me like, okay, now I understand. Until I got to seeing AM. That was quite a few years later.
Where did you see AM for the first time?
So as I started DJing, like I started getting into like a lot of playing the private parties and stuff. Like you see, like Ben Pundle's in here. We did some legendary nights, where I was given the opportunity to play in rooms, and it was Madonna and Sean Penn and Billy Corrigan, and the New Year's during Miami, and it was just like unheard of. Mark was my idol, and I remember trying to Frank Roberts, who of course we all know. Introduced me to Damon DeGraff, who's my manager now at the time, and I was like, I just want to do whatever Mark Ronson's doing. So if this is the guy, let's go do it. We didn't do business then. It was quite years later that we ended up. But Mark was definitely my end all as far as a DJ goes. And I met AM in California. So 17 years old. I look at my brother. And there was quite a tough time had happened. My mother and my father both had passed away, one at 14 and 17 years old. Wow. And which is interesting because, as I look back on that, I think to myself sometimes I may not have been able to do what I do as a DJ or had the freedom to go do what I do as a DJ if that hadn't happened, because they were lenient to an extent and they were nurturing, but they were very educational driven, and I would have had to go to college and I would have had to do some things that would have taken me away from the concentration of that. Yeah. And although terribly sad, but there's probably the truth to that. And so my brother was my guardian and my manager at the time. I was hanging out with Mauricio really heavy, and Irie, and we were all coming up at that same time in Miami, playing all the cool places, Beehive and Living Room, and all the clubs that were around, which were awesome. And I looked at my brother and I was like, hey, can we meet to have a drink one night? And he was like, pulls up to me and he was like, you want to drop out of school, huh? And I was like, And this was I was going to Miami-Dade Community College. You know, it's kind of playing my way through, you know, stuff, not
Yeah.
really concentrating.
Phoning it in. I get it. Yeah.
Phoning it in, getting kids in the club to do my homework, you know, that kind of stuff. And I eventually was like, you know what, we should, one, I do want to drop out of school. You're right. So how did you read my mind? But two, we should go to Los Angeles. I think LA is the place. I had a friend that kind of got me into some modeling stuff for a second. So I was playing around with that. And I was like, I heard if we go there, there's acting, there's modeling, there's DJing, there's across the board. I can just get busy. He was like, not the worst idea that you ever had, and let's talk about it. Then comes in another player who was a good friend of ours at the time, who was in Miami, maybe for the first time, really, because this was the time when like Miami was cracking, and Diddy was there, and Lenny was there, and Dallas Austin was there. Dallas Austin, who I consider a dad figure to me, not only allowed me went later on to go to Atlanta with him and learn music production stuff, but he was in Miami. He was like, "You DJ like this, and you've never made beats or anything? Like, how do you do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about it." Bought me my first machine, and he happened to be friends with Orlando Jones, who was doing a TV show in LA. Right when I asked, he was like,
I remember that. Yeah.
On FX for a season or something like that, you know.
Yeah,
And
I remember.
we had all these great music. We had Kanye West before anybody knew it, and all this kind of stuff. And he brought me in to go to LA because we were going to go do a TV show. So that automatically gave us work, something to go do. And
so you went Miami, LA, and that was like 2000s, early 2000 something.
So it was just after 9/11.
Got it. Okay, 2001. Okay, I see where this is going. I see. You're going in order. Good, because some people skip around. You're going in order. I get it. Okay, so you're doing Orlando Bloom in LA, and then how do you end up in New York?
So I actually, so as soon as I did that, we did LA for a short period of time, but then we started running a little route, because when I got to LA. It's crazy, even like talking this out loud.
No, I know. That's what this is for the history of it.
When we got to LA, Brian Smith, who's the photographer now, great friend of ours, Brian Bowen Smith, shot a behind the scenes for Lenny Kravitz's video for the 5 album, for when he did Fly Away. And Lenny looks at Brian and goes, "Nah, chill, bro, you know." And he was like, "Yeah, you're the rollerblader, right?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "My little cousin watches these rollerblading videos," because I was like a pro rollerblader in Miami, like right before I was DJing. So I used to be in love with it. I'd be on the tour bus with them watching watching skating videos. So he's like, "I do know you're a skating guy. My little cousin watches them all the time, and you got to meet him or whatever." So I ended up going to LA to go hang out with them, to go like be in a skating video or whatever. His wife introduces me to Ford models and gets me a Ford modeling contract while I'm in LA, which ties me into going to also go to New York to go meet them. In the process, Joe Barr and Frank are best friends, and they were like, "We're going to start a party on Sundays," because the Tunnel and you guys preceded me a little bit with like Lot 61 and Halo and these clubs, and so that was what was popping. And right when I got there, those had just stopped, and they were looking to do something on the Sunday. And so Joe Barr and Frank were like, I don't know how, maybe down with David Rabin and Jeff, or I don't know, how that conversation became about, but they were like, "Let's do this hip hop night on Sundays." This was truly the beginning of my career as a DJ then. Like, I was working my way through Miami. Miami was good. I did some really cool stuff in LA, because when I got there, I didn't change to fit in. I was like, let me just do what I do, and I really found some people that really embraced that, and found some really cool private stuff. Like I was doing like Steven Spielberg's kids' bat mitzvahs, and like, playing some little clubs here and there. I was getting in the mix, and that's where I ran into AM. But I got to New York based on going to go meet Ford models, and Joe Barr going to meet Frank to start Lotus on Sundays. And we literally started it from scratch. I was making like
Lotus.
Oh,
Lotus.
You said Lotus. Oh, wait, where's my drink?
Lotus is a drinking word, by the way, tonight, guys.
I gotta go get my drink.
No, forget it. Forget it. Don't. The Wi-Fi is more important than the drink. Don't lose me.
This is the most moving around somebody you're interviewing does.
No, Fabrizio was walking around the whole time. I told him to sit down. I'm like, please stop moving. You got your drink? No, not yet. Cheers, Lotus.
And so,
okay, yes.
So we get to Lotus. This is the Frank Roberts era. This is hip hop being sexy. For real, we had some real money being made in hip hop. It wasn't just, it was Jay-Z and Puffy and Pharrell and there was this merge.
I say too that party to me, like you alluded to it in Miami a bit, but that was to me where it was really kind of rock and roll and hip hop and kind of 80s in a really new way. At the time, that was really a new way of bringing music together. It was, it was really interesting. Belle Biv DeVoe and Salt and Peppa and Bon Jovi and Nirvana and Biggie and all this stuff it was all new to put it all together, and that's the first. But I remember kind of the beginning years of Lotus, it being the music being really innovative for that time. And I remember you just being this little quiet person behind the DJ booth, because you spun there for how long?
Probably from the beginning, maybe for the first year and a half or something like that.
And you were how old? You were 17, right?
I was 17.
That's insane to me. You were 17 and spinning, realistically, one of the hottest parties of the last 2 decades in New York. That's insane.
I would say it goes down in history as one of the best, hip hop parties. And mixed hip hop parties are sort of forward thinking, the new kind of hip hop party.
Yeah.
As it evolved into whatever it evolved into.
Well, it was a shift in New York culture at the time. You felt it. You felt the shift. It was getting more kind of glamorous and more kind of something, and you felt it. It was getting more, I guess, diverse, and it was like I felt an actual shift. And to be honest, I would say that was kind of like the Studio 54 of hip hop in a lot of ways. That party, it's kind of like every celebrity was there. Anything goes. It was kind of wild and crazy. I would say that place was wild. We didn't have social media yet, so there was a lot of crazy things going on, but no one really, there's no documentation of it. So, Lotus was pretty wild, I will say.
Yep. Lotus was wild. It was, I'm going to drink again. It was when the Led Zeppelins and the Bon Jovis mixed with the Jay-Z's and the Diddy records and and R.I.P. Chris Lighty, but the Violator records and all that stuff were coming out, and it was just epic. And there was that true New York merge of the worlds, where the broke dancer and model kids were hanging out with the celebs, and everybody was just not paying attention to any of that and having a good time. And I know you guys spoke about it last night. I heard Ben say it. It was literally every night. It was Carmen Electra on this one table, and Jay-Z right here, and then Pharrell at this table, and
it was they were also I guess Pharrell was becoming a huge star during that time. He was becoming a star, but it was I would say table 1, 2, and 3 was realistically Jay-Z, Puffy, and Pharrell for a year straight, every single week. I'm they're in New York every single Sunday like this. It was they were every single week, and then so many more. But it was that one of those places where the song, the hot song, the artist would always be there. When it was Nelly Grills or Khalees Milkshake, all this, it was all the hot song, the artist was always there, which was brilliant. I love, there's so many great things about that party, but I think the true, like you said, the true essence of that party was that it was kind of rich, poor, black, white, gay, straight, fabulous, all these amazing things, which is it was a great mix, and that was new at the time. I think it felt really innovative and new at the time. So
it was very new.
But then the music also represented that exactly. The music was also like that. It was all this kind of different genres mixed together, while still being hip hop. It was really interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It was one of my favorite moments ever in my career, and to watch it happen, and it also spawned another extremely important moment for me. Not only did I probably meet almost everybody, other than the beginnings in Miami, I probably met almost everybody that was most influential and supportive of my career throughout until this day, did I meet at that party.
Well, it's so interesting because, think about it. Bennett, who was on here last night, who's on here right now, Damon DeGraff, me, you, Frank Rower, we're all still, listen, first of all, we all kind of grew up together. That's the truth. I mean, you're younger than us, but we all grew up together, and we still have the bro code all these years later. Like, it's so interesting to me that all of us are still so close from that, really from Lotus, you mean? So 100%.
I was going to say, I just saw Diddy the other day, and he was laughing about it because he was like, when you were first around, he was like, you weren't allowed to party. He was like, it wasn't okay for you to even have a drink. That wasn't okay for a good 5 years for when I first was around in the game. And so there was a time when he came in the DJ booth one night, tapped me on my shoulder, and I didn't know he was there. Maybe I'd never met him before, or he had been in the club a couple of times, but never really met him. He taps me on the shoulder. He's got 2 security guards with him. And I look up and I'm like, hey, what's up? He was like, cut right to the chase. He goes, man, I'm about to throw a birthday party in Morocco for the next 3 days, and you about to DJ. And I go, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Let's go, And cut to, I feel like maybe we went back to, Lenny had this crazy apartment there on Crosby that I think Alicia Keys ended up buying or something like that. She might own now.
Well, first of all, the infamous Crosby Street. Lisa Cooper, Belinda, Lenny Kravitz, didn't Courtney Love live there too? Everyone lived on that street.
Courtney Love lived there too.
The infamous Crosby Street, yes.
Courtney Love lived there too. And so he taps me on the shoulder and goes, I'm throwing this party in Morocco for 3 days. I want you to DJ. So he has this birthday party. I'm 17 years old, by the way. Has this birthday party with 3 private 747s, one flying from London, one flying from Paris, and one flying from New York, with all of his chosen friends in it. We go to Morocco, and it was funny because Frank was like, I'm carrying records. So that was the first time he'd ever done that, and that's been his story. It's funny because I used to sleep on Frank's couch basically when I came to New York. Like that was the move. Like I wasn't making enough money to do any of it. I couldn't afford the extra baggage charges from the heavy crates that I had to bring of the records. So I'm playing one party, making $400 or something like that, spending it on JetBlue flights to come from LA. Barely moved out of Miami, swinging through Miami to play, the crowbar thing if I could, once a month or whatever. So I'm already on this.
Listen, as a 17-year-old should be doing, I mean, hello, I mean, I'm like, you're 17. I'm like, you're still in high school still. You mean, I'm like.
As a 17, I just graduated high school, so I'm traveling all 3 of these places, trying to make things matter and meet, and Joe Barr's managing me and helping out with all the parties and doing all that. Goldfinger in the building. What up, Goldfinger?
What's up, Goldfinger? Legendary Goldfinger. We love you.
Even more legendary.
I know, right?
And so I ended up going to DJ his party. It's me, Cut Killer, who's from France, who became a great friend, and also was an idol of because he was an idol of mine because Jovar used to bring his mixtapes back from when he was on tour with Lady and stuff, and I would be able to hear, what he was doing. And I was like, yo, how is he doing this? He was using extra mixers or whatever. I don't know what it was. And so I was in love with Cut Killer. I was like, wow, I'm going to get to meet Cut Killer. And then a guy named Vanjie from New York that was playing house music. And everybody was at this party. And every night for the next 3 nights, a bigger palace and a bigger party happened. And like they carried him in on like a gold chariot one night, and then there was
I love him. You mean?
He's awesome, man. He's awesome, and I can't ever say enough about him, man. I really love Puff.
But I've said this on here several times. I don't think he gets the credit for being a businessman, for being a great producer. I don't think he gets the credit for being the visionary that he is. He's a huge visionary. He always has been. You mean? And I don't think people see him that way for some reason. You mean?
Yeah. Sometimes they don't. And also from a standpoint of like throwing parties and events. And then and truly engaging. People, you can throw a party. And
he's the best host. He's the best host. You mean? He gets listen. I love when he comes to my party because he's going to turn it all the way up. I know that. Like, the party, okay. And when Diddy's there, he turns it up. Any room he's in, he gets on the mic and he turns that party all the way. Listen, he basically wants to have fun at all times, so he makes sure everybody's having fun. That's what it is. I mean, so I love him.
Yeah, he's a great man. So we went through there. Then New York. I was sleeping on Frank's couch. We used to call the Ultra Suede. And then, just kept climbing my way through it, man. Noah Tepperberg really early embraced me. I started playing Sweet 16. You know,
We love you know too.
yeah, man. And you know, then got back to Miami. We're doing New Year's and all that kind of stuff with Vanagon, Red Room, and all that launched. That was amazing. And then I was, also back in LA, and then we started seeing the Sammy Boy operation come in. So, Shelter and those nightclubs and Deep, and shout out like Allison Melanik. We were starting to do National, and Private
Yeah.
Parties.
Allison's on here right now. Oh yeah, she's here. Yeah, Allison's on here.
And I was, we was talking about Sweet 16. I was 16 when I was going in there, like fake ID, also modeling, doing like American Eagle ads. And so I was taking the hot girls that I met from the from the American Eagle ads to the party, being able to kind of finesse getting that in.
No, it was like this. No, it was like this. Yeah. No, it was like, yeah.
No, it's like the business is too important right now. We can't be talking this kind of.
But no, listen. I mean, the reality is, I knew you were 17 spinning at Lotus. I'm like, this is insanity. That was insane to me.
Insanity, man.
But then also, you were a great DJ at 17, which was also kind of a really weird, ironic part of it. You were very young, but you're also great, like a prodigy in a lot of ways. You were an excellent DJ at 17 and rocking like one of the hottest parties in New York for that whole decade. This little 17-year-old that lives in Miami. I'm like, what's going on over here? I'm like.
So that's the thing too. A lot of people don't know where I'm from because of that. Because I was always moving so early, and I would pop up everywhere. And then I ended up living in Atlanta after that for about 4 or 5 years. Dallas offered me to come to Atlanta. He was like, come, I'll give you a room in the studio. You can learn how to make music there. And I got to this place where I other than Miami, I lived in Connecticut for a little bit when I was a kid. I never had the opportunity to be surrounded by black people, so I was like, I got there and was like, man, this is awesome. And needed it at the time, to know who I was and know more about my personality and culture at that period of time.
It's part of your story. I mean, well, I remember, now you're saying it, I remember we did Khalees's birthday party in her backyard. You spun that. In Atlanta.
I think I DJ'd her and Nas's I think wedding party or something like that. The after party for the wedding.
Khalees's?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember seeing you now that you're saying. I remember seeing you a lot in Atlanta during that time. I mean,
yeah, it was in ATL because in Dallas, of course, those two worked together and they did some great records. Besides me scratching on Tricky, and I moved to Atlanta and started working on some music stuff. And I didn't take it as seriously as I was supposed to, but we did some things. I did a Janet Jackson record with Dallas and a Boys in the Hood record with Eric Sermon, and also saw Puff coming through there. So it was another thing. He was like, man, I still see you, so.
I don't know Dallas that well, but he seems to mentor a lot of really of the young talented people. I see him do it. Like I really don't know that well, but I see how he kind of gravitates towards the young kind of talented people, and I think he really mentors them a lot. He's
a very, very special human being, man. Yeah. He's different. He was 17 when he made some of the biggest hit records ever, ABC and all this stuff. He was Brandy and Monica and the things he's doing. They had him and Jermaine just had an incredible conversation recently about I wrote this or something that he called it, and just talked about the story from song to song and from day to day and what Atlanta was like and why it's got the sauce that it does. I got an opportunity to go see what that was, and he gave me a community and a family that I needed at the time. Both of my parents had passed away. I still have my older brother and older sister, cousins and whatever else, but he ran Atlanta at the time, and so it was just like free reign to go kind of do whatever you want to do.
And how old were you, 21 or something? How old were you at the time?
I was 19. Still not 21. And then he's also bouncing back and forth between Miami and LA. He's recording with Christina Aguilera and Pink and Gwen Stefani and Linda Perry. And, I'm getting to see I was in the studio while they wrote Beautiful, things like that.
Wow.
And just being nurtured by that was amazing. And, and also helped get my foot further in the door of okay, this kid's around the right people and we want him to DJ this and that. And, I'm still growing and learning at that time. I'm not the best, and I still don't think I'm the best. I'm very good at what I do, but there was times when there was probably somebody better for the job, and I got to fit the description because I was the cool kid.
It's interesting you say because you're only 19 at that time. I remember it took me the longest to even accept you as an adult. Like when you were probably 27, 20 years old, I'm like, Little Ruckus, like he's gonna be 30 years old. I'm like, it took me a really long time to actually accept you as like a grown man kind of thing. Like because you'd been so young for so long. Like you're saying, you're doing all these things at 19. Yeah, I'm like, I remember. Yeah, you're always like this little young person. So that's right. So then you're in Atlanta, and then what's next? What happens next for you?
So I was in Atlanta for a long time, like 4 or 5 years, and I decided to move back to LA. I wanted something different again. Atlanta is this incredible place, an incredible melting pot of culture and vibe and music, and now even cooler than it's ever been. But there was something that really sat with me wrong because it was still segregated. And the way that nightlife used to operate used to be very purposely like that. There was nights where you couldn't wear white sneakers on purpose because they knew all the black people wore white sneakers, so they would. Yeah. It was very segregated, and restaurants and nightclubs had their way of making sure that they had whomever clientele that felt comfortable with that clientele there that night.
Yeah, on a certain night.
And and I didn't like it, and I didn't understand it because coming from LA and New York, we were so forward thinking when we know, Y3 clothes and all that kind of stuff are cool. Yeah. And they're cooler than, the Ben's Warehouse jacket that you're going to come in here in your bowling shoes or whatever, Yeah. There wasn't an understanding of style, and they just decided that they didn't want to. And that, to me, as of course, I'm sure you can understand, if you can't express yourself in the standpoint of style and, and see like-minded people that understand that, it's hard to identify. And
Atlanta was, in particular at that time, kind of like behind, but it has progressed a lot, as you know. Yeah. Atlanta has progressed a lot in the past 10 years, let's say, so.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think, they have more to do. I think they'll continue. It's an incredible city. Yeah. It's an unstoppable city. So, it's gonna continue thriving for sure and get to a place where
it's rich in culture. I say when you get off the plane in Atlanta, you feel it. The minute you step off the plane, you feel it in the air. Something, has that Atlanta feel, which is great. And I would say Atlanta has its own identity. A lot of cities don't have their own identity. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And there was some, and that's what was amazing for me to see too. Watching even as many artists that had already come out of there, I still got there, and there was still Sierra and Bobby Valentino and Lloyd and Jazzy Faye and all these people still coming out of there new, creating greater stuff, and I fell in love with it for a while, and and the soul food and the whole thing, But now, after that, I decided to go to LA. I was dating I have obviously a history of supermodels. I was dating Dawson Cruz at the time,
Ruckus. I'm like,
yeah, right. I'm done with that. So, thought that it would be cooler to live in Los Angeles, and whatever. So I moved to LA. Got a place on top of. I started to make a little bit of money, whatever. Lived on top of Katsuya at the Vine building there, and just kind of started getting back into this city that I really had a love for when I first, when I first visited.
Well, so okay, you said you started making a lot of money. When did you realize kind of that you're making it? That you're like, you're kind of like, this is what you're going to do, and you're becoming. When did you start to feel successful, basically?
I would say just after that. Look at Ben and Damon. Laughing.
And why? And why?
Because the money started looking different, really, and also now we start to introduce Vegas.
Yeah.
So Las Vegas, Lenny has a concert. I DJ the after party. It's at Jet, which is now, or was, One Oak at the Mirage Hotel. I was 19. Fake ID again. This is where the fake ID really came into play. I didn't really need it anywhere else. This was necessary. Which I eventually got arrested for. I'll tell you that story. I'm starting to get love in the private territory. Also, part of why I wanted to get out of Atlanta is because I didn't have the foot traffic from the major cities that I was used to. I didn't see the same people as I saw in Miami, LA, and New York. That would go, oh, hey, you look good, man, and you sound great. Why don't you come play this party? And I started losing that foot traffic. Yeah. And I started gaining a lot also, and I started gaining a know-how. I had a swag because that down south records were cracking. So I had a swag and an understanding of something that nobody else could really get because I was at the source. But I would come back to Miami, and Irie and Mauricio had taken over Miami. Couldn't really get in there, New York, Goldfinger, and everybody had taken over the Lotus thing, and so, but private events and all that kind of stuff were really doing well for me. I read in the Cassidy, we were doing the same thing. We were playing a lot of Naomi and Puff, and, I was playing, stuff for Ben, stuff for Frank, stuff for, these Rose Bar days start coming around, whatever it is. I started getting like that, and then also, I did so great at that party with Lenny in Vegas that I ended up with a residency at this Vegas spot.
Amazing.
Which started a steady residency. I've had a residency in Las Vegas since I was 19 years old somewhere. Yeah. Nice little, some kind of stack, I'm not really spending a lot of money living, whatever else, this is before I'm like, hey, let's get on a plane to go to Mykonos and go, like.
I think the drinking word should be, oh, Ruckus. Oh, Ruckus.
We got to drink. I said Lotus. Cheers.
Okay. Cheers. Okay.
So now, where we at? I'm in Vegas. I go from Vegas, from the Mirage to the Palms. I'm now also being managed by Damon at this time. I get in a fight with Jovar one night walking down the street in New York. I was like, it's just kind of, I was just outgrowing the situation. He wasn't a DJ manager.
Yeah.
And I like this Ruckus hashtag. I think I might use this for something. Ruckus.
Yeah. First of all, someone just put on here Drunkus or Druckus or something. Drunkus.
I'm gonna be Drunkus after drinking all this. So we're in Vegas, and I do residency after residency. I'm managed by Damon Yoni Goldberg, who was his partner at that time, who's still my manager now. We start doing great work. We start implementing I'm in Complex Magazine, and I'm doing Puma ads with them, and really starting to cultivate the relationships and understand what I'm doing and how to make it move, how to continue making it move.
What years was that? What year? That was like 2005-ish, 6-ish? What is that?
Yeah, 2005.
Because you kind of like were one of the first that I kind of remember breaking out as kind of like the superstar DJs, as in like in that, kind of breaking out kind of, not just New York, not just LA. You kind of, you really broke out. Maybe because you were younger, kind of worked to your advantage, but I remember you kind of breaking out as this like kind of superstar DJ, one of the first that I remember, so.
Yeah, because as AM was like on Entourage and crushing it and doing all that stuff, there was a couple of guys that were in that circuit on the West Coast that were doing their thing. There was Spider, there was obviously like Jusky and guys like that, and Cassidy, and we were all kind of working the circuit. There was a good Vice, of course. There was 5, 6, 7, 8 of us that were really Mauricio and Irie that were really controlling that, other than the greats. There was AM and Mark Ronson and Z-Trip and guys that were like the top tier. So everything private, everything cool, every sexy party or whatever it was, we were doing it. And before the EDM DJs hit Vegas, we had control of it. And I was never scared to travel, and that's what really helped, because I was always everywhere I could possibly be. This is due to this pandemic. This is the first time that I've been in one city this long in maybe 20 years.
No, you're a traveler. I'm a traveler too. You're like way more of a traveler than me. But I've seen you in the airport sleeping many times, by the way. I always take the 6 a.m. flight. I know you do too, because we got to be somewhere or whatever. I always go after the party. But I've seen you in many airports sleeping and just be like, hey, Ruckus, as like, you're sleeping, so I don't bother you. You mean? So.
Man, and of course, just we started running into each other just that way. I would see you everywhere. We'd be in LA, in New York, or wherever.
Well, I believe in being everywhere. I believe it's possible to be everywhere. I've always believed that. So, you mean?
Oh, you froze a little bit. Say it again.
I said I believe it's in being everywhere. I believe it's possible to be everywhere. You mean?
Yeah.
I believe that.
And that's been my motto, and I've kept running with it. I do what I do, and I keep going and keep going here and there. And but yeah, I ended up on the West Coast, running through those guys, and then live in Miami happened. And I'm in the territory of 20 I think I was probably like 24. I was probably skipping a little bit, but I'm somewhere around 24, 25 in there when that started happening. Because this is just after like New York had gone through that phase of like minimizing things a little bit. Like Beatrice Inn, was the thing, and like
Gold bar, everything was small. You mean?
yeah, yeah, things started to, you went through the Bungalow 8 days. Like those were the days like where I wasn't really playing heavily in all of those spots. I was kind of hanging out here and there. I couldn't really get in, like disco knew who I was, but unless I was with so and so,
Oh, wow.
it was kind of like, and all the door people, thank God for all of them because they were all so cool. And eventually, you got to know them, and
Yeah.
Sherry and everybody was, in the
Yeah.
business. Yourself, Sinclair, um, but like, I fell in love. I fell in love with the bug of night clubbing, and saw, and would love to collect information from everywhere I went, and that started to shape what it was that I was doing musically as a
Yeah.
DJ, and started just getting successful, and the boom of DJing happened. Then the next thing it was these giant EDM acts in Vegas and all that kind of stuff. And, once AM hit Entourage and sort of became that celebrity as a DJ and did the Travis Barker and all that, it was like, okay, these guys can be celebrities. And then, career kind of took off from there. It,
I rem I remember seeing you in Vegas, and seeing you spin for like thousands of people, and they were like, yeah, you were like a star. I'm like, look at Ruckus. You mean like I've seen you spin for like massive crowds, and you are like a star DJ. So, you mean how is that transition for you, going from kind of like cool guy to kind of superstar DJ?
so I eventually had to do something. We all reach these plateaus,
Yeah,
everybody, in every business. And
yeah,
um, there came a spot and a time where, it just, whatever I was doing kind of wasn't enough.
yeah,
I wasn't producing music as a DJ artist, which is what most DJs that really became famous were doing.
yep,
And, um, it was going off into the EDM territory, and, which was great for open format DJs because we'll adapt to anything. We'll always sort of have some work or have a job because, we'll adapt to whatever's happening. And then, some other things started happening, traveling to like, Cannes for the film festival, and being in London, and being in, shout out Zeus McAllister, the guys, he's been trying to pull me and put me in the business, and he runs Tape London now. It took him, 10, 15 years to get to that spot where he was just helping me get to come get little checks and get my name out there in London and places like that. I had to start performing in a certain manner that separated me from others.
yep.
That's where you see, like, nowadays, where I'm like standing on top of a DJ
No,
booth playing
listen,
the guitar
I
with
know it
the
well.
DJ.
I know it well. I know your moves well. You mean?
It's something that people have come accustomed to seeing me do now. But that was, I started playing it like, handling it like the business that I need to. PR people, and furthering the management, talking about remixes, and magazine spreads and whatever else. And that's what sort of made the difference. Other than never missing shows, always getting on a plane and going to be at my, whatever it was, playing and taking as many shows as I could. I wouldn't even think twice about playing anywhere.
Yeah,
I would bounce back and forth across the country all the time because it wasn't like I could really play tours where I would be like, Arizona, Sacramento, whatever else. I would have to play in these cities that really knew me, and I could really get the money that I wanted. So I'll fly 5 hours Tuesday, 6 hours Wednesday, 4 hours Thursday. It didn't matter to me,
yeah,
and it still doesn't. And because I'm in
yeah.
love with what I do, and
Great.
never second guess having to get up and go do it.
Yeah, because you're something, like you basically have your dream job. It's great. You mean?
Yeah,
It's what
yeah.
you wanted as a
It's a fun sport, I
14-year-old.
call it.
What?
I said it's a fun sport, I call it.
Yeah, like as a 14-year-old, you wanted it, and as an adult, you have exactly it, and then some. You mean?
Yeah.
So what have been some of the highlights of your career, you think? Like, what are some major career highlights?
Well, I always say Diddy's party, that birthday party was one.
From Lotus, right? From Lotus.
Lotus is definitely a one.
Lotus, drink.
The Fashion for Relief parties and stuff that I did for Naomi Campbell throughout film festival. There was a special night that I played VIP room when it used to be where Gotha is in south of France in Cannes. It's a big one. All of the residencies throughout Vegas. So I got residencies. I started big residencies started coming and doing Hakkasan. Now with Tao Group. Some great residencies throughout Vegas. And Diana Ross's 75th, the private portion of that.
I was at the non-private portion. It was amazing.
Yeah. I saw you walk in, dripping head to toe fresh.
I know, right? Evan, I met Evan, I think, through you. Evan always said, Evan's like, because everyone's friends with Evan Ross. I just met him this year, but y'all have been friends with him for years. I met him through you at the Times Square Edition opening.
That's right. I remember you guys mentioning that you hadn't met. Shout out Evan Ross, by the way. That's my bro, man. I love that kid.
No, he's great. He's really great. I mean, he's so cool and so nice. But we're kind of like, we knew literally everybody except each other. Like, we had all the same friends. It was very interesting. But I met through you, by the way.
I met him on the set of ATL. So Dallas Austin wrote the movie ATL, and Evan's in the movie, and I'm the kid that snitches on him because he started selling drugs and he won't sell me any weed, so I snitch on him.
Funny how life imitates art. I'm just kidding. Wait, who have you kind of gagged over?
Neon Carnival down here. Neon Carnival is huge for me.
Oh yeah, okay, great.
Yeah,
I've never been.
Coachella.
I've never been.
Awesome party.
Who have you kind of gagged over that you met? Like whether it be Diana Ross or someone where you're like, OMG, I cannot believe this.
That's a good one. I sat across from Anthony Kiedis one time during a dinner with Adrian Brody's birthday, which definitely is a mind blower. He's awesome and was super cool and like acted like I mattered for the whole time, which is cool.
Personally, you do matter, and he does seem cool. I have to say. I think I met him too. I think he's cool. I can't remember. I think I met him. Who else?
What a badass. Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder, great.
Yeah. This is my favorite artist by far.
Yep.
And that was a mind blower.
Yeah.
Sofia Vergara, which I think is super gorgeous. That one time.
And she's fun. And she's fun. She's very fun.
Yeah, super cool. And that's it. I met Oprah. I played a party for her in Santa Barbara one time, which is cool.
Oprah's also fun, right? Oprah's really fun in a party setting. She's fun, right?
She's fun.
Oprah likes to dance. She did a shop. I saw her do a shop before.
She was on the mic talking shit, you know.
Yeah, Oprah's fun. Oprah's more fun than you'd expect, I think. Okay, so a couple of DJ questions. What's your go-to song? You know, what's your favorite song to spin right now first?
You know what? We don't have one. I was just having a conversation with some of my buddies on a podcast. You know, it's there's no way to gauge right now. We don't know
where
the energy is because we don't have the gap.
But what's your general go-to song if the party's like not has a vibe to get a vibe?
Anything Michael Jackson, you know.
Good, great answer. And if you could have dinner with 4 people, not including yourself, you'd be the 5th, and dead or alive, who are the 4 people you'd like to have dinner with?
Bob Marley.
Great.
Bob Marley, Gandhi, Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, good one.
And my dad.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. Really beautiful. Okay, so Ruckus, it ends at 1 hour. It's going to hang up anyway, so I want to wrap it up. Does anybody have any questions for Ruckus before we go? And then also, I want to tell you, Ruckus, I choose people for the show that are really important to culture, and I like to celebrate that each person individually for their contributions to culture. You've been so instrumental and important to culture for the last 2 decades, literally almost. And I want you to acknowledge that about yourself and know that what you're doing is really important to culture, to the history of New York City nightlife, to nightlife in general, you helped shift an entire culture. And I just want you to really acknowledge the fact in yourself that you are extremely important to culture. So I want to say that to you. So
really appreciate that, and I love that, man. Thank you so much, man. It's a pleasure to hear that from you, coming from somebody so great. So thank you.
Yes, you and I are brothers. We have 24 seconds left. You and I are brothers. I love you. I thank you so much for doing this, and continued success.
I love you so much, and right back at you, brother. Be safe out there. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching.
Peace. Thanks, guys. Peace out,
Bye.
everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.